Hello, YouTube. This is my second channel, the KarQ Archives, but if you follow the main channel, of course, you usually see every season we do like, the side-by-side comparison for the patch changes and whatnot. But this one, on this channel, I kind of just want to yap a bit more and explain what I think of the patch versus just like showing you what changed. So I'm going to briefly skim through it, sit back and relax, and let us listen up here. Season 12, August 20, 2024, retail patch notes. New Frontiers, skipping through this stuff. Juno is out. New game mode Clash, very nice. Hanaoka, Throne of Anubis. You guys are gonna have a good time if you enjoyed Moira and Temple of Anubis in Overwatch 1. Well, they're not the same, different game mode, but the aesthetic is the same, so it looks awesome. Throne of Anubis. Hero Mastery, if you're into it, there's Pharah and Zarya now, very cool. General updates, we have 15 avoid slots now. 3 pin slots and 12 recent slots. The TLDR of this is 3 pin slots are basically what you're used to. You know, when you avoid up to 3 people, they're never getting your game. But in the recent slot, it doesn't guarantee they won't be in your game. It's just like there's a higher chance they won't if they're at the top of the recent, and then as you go down the list, there's a lower priority where like there's a better chance they still end up on your team. It's mostly just to still make sure matchmaking games don't take forever, because if you have 15 people around your rating and everybody else has 15 people, you might get like 20 or 30 minute queues. Am I going to Fan Expo this weekend? Yes, I am. Next thing is the spawn changes. This is now going to be in casual and competitive modes, by the way. Wave respawn is added to competitive play. You might read this and be like, whoa, default respawn time went from 10 to 12 seconds. Overtime respawn went to 14, but if you die by yourself, your 12 seconds still becomes 10 seconds if nobody else dies. So that's exactly what it was before. But in short, the wave respawn is if one person dies, they start a wave. And any hero that dies within those 6 seconds of that wave joins that wave. So somebody could die 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, and then a teammate dies, and then they actually match them. They'll be right here, 7, and they both have a 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they both spawn at the same time. So there's a wave every 6 seconds. That's basically it. So there's a better chance you guys spawn together and regroup a little bit better. It's actually in a couple of other games. I think TF2 has a wave respawn, and I think some other shooters have it. It's actually not as bad as you think. There was already a group respawn in quick play. Maybe you guys noticed it, maybe you guys didn't. It wasn't in comp. It's gonna be in the game now, and I think that's fine. This doesn't even actually feel that significant. It just feels like a nice quality of life change so people stop staggering. You could argue that it removes some of the stalling and skill aspect of like stalling and staggering some of your kills, but big thing here, competitive play update. There's a mid-year rank reset, soft reset. They did say a soft reset. You do need to do 10 placements to start again. You do have a predicted rank that will kind of help you get matches very quickly. Defense matrix, max duration reduced back from 3.5 to 3 seconds. Still think D.Va's really good because her damage is still net buffed. Remember when they giga buffed D.Va, they gave her the 3.5 seconds over 3 seconds and gave her micro missile damage and whatnot. So her burst potential to punish people out of position is still very good. Defense matrix not as obscenely oppressive, but still pretty solid, I would say. 3 seconds is still great. That's what everybody was used to. That's when even when she was meta before that change, still very good. Next, we have Orisa, energy javelin, impact damage from 60 to 80. I still don't think Orisa's gonna be meta. I still think she's kind of meh. So that's my thoughts here. I mean, there are 225 HP heroes now. Maybe Orisa is better than I think she is, but last patch, before season 12, I was considering her the worst tank in the patch, at the high level at least. Zarya, so her damage minimum at 0 energy went from 47 to 55. And then the maximum went from 95 to 110. So the range of it. So just otherwise, this is just like a full DPS increase on both ends, whether you're at 0 or 100 energy. So very good. Okay, Echo, raw nerf. So if you guys, when we go down this list, you'll see a lot of heroes have 25 less HP because they're trying to nerf mobility. I have some thoughts on that, but Echo 250 to 225. Echo was one of the top performing damage heroes recently. I agree. She was kind of like S and A tier for a while, so I think this is fine. Hanzo's decision to nerf him was very interesting because guess what? At the top of this, they said they wanted to... Mobility is very powerful and we'd like there to be a trade-off for the flexibility, so removing a handful of heroes at 225 HP. So basically they're saying mobile heroes should get 225 HP. But you'll notice they gave Hanzo a small nerf. Is Hanzo considered mobile? Hard to say because there's Genji as well, but they didn't touch Genji, but they nerfed Hanzo. I'm not a Hanzo fan. I hate playing against Hanzo, so like I don't personally hate it, but I think the Hanzo mains or DPS mains are not gonna like it because I think, relatively speaking, he was kind of a pretty poor performing damage hero already, and they nerfed him 25 HP. Their justification here, if you want to glance through the developer comments, was that because other heroes are at 225, it does give him the one shot back, which They're trying to anticipate the lethality of that, but like there's only a few heroes. How often is Hanzo one-shotting an Echo in the sky? Pretty low. Sombra, I mean, understandable. Kiri, I mean, if you're getting sniped across the map, I mean, I think it's whatever. Like I don't think they needed to nerf Hanzo. That's all I'm trying to say. Next thing is Junkrat. The first thing they did was they nerfed the projectile size by half after the second ricochet, but the ricochets themselves preserve velocity. So this is actually a bigger change. If you're a good Junkrat main, you can do some crazier bounces and stuff now. The projectile is just a little bit smaller. It's still pretty big. So even though it says half, reduced by half, it was already kind of a small number. I think this one outweighs the top one. So I still think this is a net buff for Junkrat, but not too much. Pretty bad nerf for Hanzo. Echoes is acceptable, I think. Hanzo kind of just feels bad despite the damage, despite the one shot and like against a couple of small matchups. He can one shot. It is a net buff for him in some ways, but losing survivability is like pretty hard to quantify for a lot of players. But losing 25 HP can make or break a lot of heroes, in my opinion. So even though he can one shot more, him losing this makes him extremely vulnerable in a world where all the projectiles are bigger in season 9. I don't know. I think a lot of people are underestimating 25 less HP. There's a lot of times you guys end up living. Look at the bottom of your health and you'll see like, oh my God, I live with 10 HP, 5 HP, 1 HP, 15 HP, 20 HP. Those would count as deaths. The more you die, you're out of the fight for 10, 12 seconds in a long wave, plus like 10 seconds to run back to the point. That's 0 value across 20 seconds if the average deaths per 10 go up because your survivability is worse. To me, most HP nerfs are pretty significant. I value those quite a bit. You saw how Tracer went from 150 to 175 and it made her super crazy good. Like, it's a lot. So when you shift HP. There's also the Brig example when Brig used to be what, 225 and they nerfed her to 200, but when she was at 225, she was pretty good. This is like early Overwatch 2, if I'm not mistaken. Sojourn, they buffed the railgun like primary fire. It's tighter spread, more energy, doesn't really degenerate a little bit. This is nice, but I still think Sojourn's a low B tier DPS hero. The primary fire is a minor part of it, and at least the highest value for Sojourn and the high end was like those very lethal 130 damage rails, 195 to the head, but because it got nerfed to 100 damage, the loop of that, hard to say. I still think she's low B tier. I don't think she's great, but a little bit better for sure. These are all complete net buffs, by the way, to the primary fire. They don't want to make the secondary fire rail like as annoying as it used to be, but like without that, it felt like Sojourn's entire loop and the burst lethality was gone. And yeah, low B tier for me here. Sombra, people were saying this was a buff, but like this is impact damage, by the way, 25 to 35. It's just plus 10 damage on Virus. The damage over time is the lethal part where it like ticks, 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 ticks. That's a bit more. I mean, this is definitely like a small bit of lethality, but like not that much. But since a lot of heroes are at 225 now, this could be pretty significant. Movement speed, I mean, that's nice. And if you're good at, and if your pathing was good, like this isn't too crazy if you're already invisible. The big nerf here is that like if you're in a bad spot though, you will be punished way faster if you don't translocate out fast enough at 225. If I turn around as a Kiriko and double dink Sombra now, like she's dead versus before as a Kiriko. Yeah, hard to say. This one's kind of like mixed. Pretty significant in terms of survivability, but this plus HP nerf's good. This is of course good. I'm kind of in the middle for this. Turn around and 2-tap as a Kiriko, for example, or yeah. If Sombra gets slept, doesn't Anna do 75 damage right now, or is it 70? I can't remember. If I sleep a Sombra at 225 out of Invis, that puts her, sleep does what, 5 damage? Puts her at 220. Shot, nade, shot, melee, or is it shot, nade, shot? They always patch stuff. I don't remember the exact numbers. A couple of matchups on support aren't as bad against Sombra because of that HP nerf. That's all I'm trying to say. Torbjorn, raw buff, converting 25 health to armor. That's fine. Torb is never like a high tier hero, but he's like acceptable in the mid to high, depending on the rank you play, of course. Illari, ammo nerf is more uptime of a nerf than just the random captive sun that like, you know, they made it smaller so that it can like pass through walls or like, I saw this clip of Emong just like Illari ulting into like a lamppost recently because the projectile size of it is a little big. Or for me, I end up whiffing it and it hits like a random little thing. Like this is a buff to Captive Sun, but the chance of your Captive Sun doing that is like 1 every few games versus just like the raw loss of ammo and you have to reload more often. So this is a net nerf for Illari, but not much. Illari was already a top performing support according to the stats, and anecdotally, I thought Illari was pretty good last patch too. So I still think she's pretty good, pretty high tier. Juno, they are nerfing the health, so she is pretty squishy. And the Medi Blaster like rate of fire This is such a weird way to quantify it because she shoots 12 bullets still, but it's the recovery. They measured this by shots per second versus recovery time. And they use recovery time in a bunch of other heroes, but then for some reason they call this shots per second. So I'm a little confused on the notation of this. I wish we were just consistent on like a fire rate multiplier. If she shoots 12 shots per round and she makes 28 per second, what's her fire rate? 2.3x fire rate, something like that. If we just used a notation that makes sense, I mean, maybe I'm dumb, maybe they're onto something here, but something like that is a bit more intuitive to understand than recovery time or 28 shots per second. I did the math, right? 12 shots, 12x. If she shoots 12 shots and she can do 28, that's 2 for sure because it's 24, and there's plus 4, and then 4 is a third of 12, so 2.33 fire rate. And then this is like a 36 would be 3x fire rate, so that would be like 2.8 to 2.33 fire rate. I don't know, whatever. This is a net nerf to both damage and healing because Medi Blaster goes both ways. This is a nerf, this is a nerf. Everything else kind of got buffed. The impact is up, but the heal over time is nerfed. So then it still ends up being 135 HP in total, just the initial impact. So it's a small net buff to the healing, net buff to the damage, net buff to the hyper ring range, net buff in terms of the uptime, and net buff to the ultimate. Hard to say if it's net nerf or net buff till I play it. I would argue that this might be a net nerf because survivability and the raw Medi Blaster is like bigger part of her gameplay than the occasional cooldown. I'll have to see. But yeah, I thought Juno was like in the middle. I didn't think she was overpowered or underpowered during her test weekend. And I think when people learn how to play around her, she's actually gonna end up on the weaker side, is my initial guess. She's gonna be lower B tier for your average player because she's a pretty high skill cap hero, and maybe a high B tier for high rank players, which will gravitate downwards when people understand the matchup over time. Okay, Kiriko. This one I'm kind of in the middle for. This really depends on your playstyle. So they're obviously reducing her health from 250 to 225, which is a big net nerf, but they are buffing the kunai damage 2.5 to 2x. Critical multiplier goes down. This is offset by the raw damage of the kunai. 60 base kunai, 120 to the head, versus 45 base, 112.5 to the head. Recovery time increase. So here they use recovery time, right? And earlier they used, what was it called? Shots per second. But recovery time being increased is a nerf. This means between each kunai, you have to wait 0.55 seconds versus 0.5. So there's more time in between your kunais, which means the fire rate is slower. That's a nerf. So here's a nerf. Survivability is nerfed. Spamming is nerfed. And then this also nerfs the rhythm. If you want to maximize, min-max your efficiency, the 5 Ofuda, 2 kunais is not as efficient anymore because you can't weave in that time anymore. You can only do 5 Ofudas, 1 kunai, 5 Ofudas, 1 kunai because of the time in between. Slightly nerfed with the rhythm, nerf survivability, but buff damage. So if you're already just a low, I would say if you're an average, below average Kiriko who heal botted anyways and didn't maximize your kunai usage, you're actually gonna play worse, and this is a nerf for bad Kirikos because you're just simply just gonna die more because your survivability is worse. Better players might be able to play around this HP nerf and recovery time because they'll be able, a lot of top Kiriko players know how to like play really aggressive DPS angles, and you know, they can't spam non-stop spam, but they like make their shots count a little bit more, so like they'll feel a little better. But kind of in the middle here. Again, it just depends on what rank you play in for Kiriko specifically. That's my thoughts on that, of course. Does that make sense? Lifeweaver, this one is crazy. Healing progress charges passively. Now, if you guys pick Lifeweaver, he just starts building up heal on his heal blossom. That's the biggest buff here, by the way. So that they're incentivizing you to switch to damage because your healing can like start building up on the side. So you can go full DPS switch and then you already have like some heal built up. And you no longer lose movement speed when you're holding a full charge. Big buffs here. The pedal platform is mostly quality of life stuff. It's nice, but a lot of times people are still messing it up. You can charge, go to shooting, and I don't know if you keep the charge. Or yeah, you do, right? Yeah, you do. Pedal platform, duration only counts down when it's raised, that's good. And it now resets if no one's standing on it, which is crazy. So if it goes up, it can actually come back down if nobody was on it for longer than 2 seconds. If you stand on it for longer than 2 seconds, it counts as being in use, and then it'll actually expire like normal after 12 seconds. But the health of it is reduced, but honestly, who the hell actually breaks pedal platform? 99% of people never break the pedal platform. It's not worth shooting a person up there. So like this is pretty insignificant. This is just raw buffs to the platform quality of life. The only net nerf really is rejuvenating dash. Survivability went down a little bit from 60 to 45, but rejuvenate, like Life Weaver already dies very infrequently because he can platform up and stop all damage. He has shield health, and if he dashes, it's already like a big little heal. He's already pretty hard to kill, so not too bad. This is for sure a big net buff to his playstyle. We have Mercy. Base health being reduced from 250 to 225. That's a pretty big nerf, of course, because I always value survivability being like a big thing. But Mercy already dies pretty infrequently. I think if you have good movement, maybe it might be okay. If your movement kind of sucks, then you're going to die way more. But the healing is pretty good. 55 to 60. I mean, it's not great. 55 to 60 is what it used to be. It used to be 60 HP per second, like early Overwatch. And that's when everybody used to have 200 HP. But so many people are at 250, 225, 300 HP for May, and all that stuff. Like, this is whatever, especially ever since Season 9, everyone's HP went up. 55 to 60 is like a little under 10% increase of health, where everybody else received like a 15, 20% relative health increase in Season 9, so But damage boost going back up is going to be interesting. Damage boost was talked about a lot in early Overwatch 1 with Mercy Sojourn, and they had to nerf damage boost a bit, but damage boost by 5% is okay again relative to all the HP increase in the game. That's okay. But yeah, this will be a nerf or buff depending on your playstyle. In the final patch, or no, it's not final. Why is Lucio at the bottom? It's out of order here alphabetically, which kind of bothers me, but that's okay. Moira, base health, losing 25 HP, survivability, but getting more DPS on your biotic grasp. I feel like Moira is already pretty hard to kill, and she has a lot of tools to self-heal with the suck and the healing orb. This relative health reduction, based on her kit, isn't as bad compared to some other heroes, where like losing HP is really bad. And she does get a little damage buff. I think I'm pretty neutral on this one. Probably still leans more to the net. It's still a net nerf, I think, compared to 5 extra DPS, but like, I think she's still acceptable for most players, but probably we'll see 0 playtime at high ranks because 225 HP, like this means nothing at high ranks. Does more damage mean more heals? I don't think so. Isn't heal a separate or is the multiplier on the healing dependent on the damage? I actually don't even know now. Let's see. Last thing is Lucio. Base health reduction, bad for survivability, but 4 extra damage on the spam. That adds up when you spam a lot. I see, if you guys ever like look at like your Lucio numbers on the high end, Lucios end up with like 6 to 8K damage per game, or even more sometimes. Lucios get a lot of spam chip damage. This means you build beat a lot faster too, at the cost of your survivability. So this kind of nerfs your Reddit Lucio, like playing aggressive style. But if you're a pussy Lucio like me, who just sits in the back and spams, buffing that playstyle, probably, but building a beat faster for tempo. This one's kind of mixed for me. I think this can go both ways depending on how you look at it. And Lucio is one of those heroes with a pretty versatile playstyle where you can go in many different directions. Kind of neutral for me. Pretty interesting trade-off. Couple of quality of life changes. They've updated the visuals. I'm not going to get too far into this kind of stuff. Hearing your hyper ring, voice line stuff. Final bits of this patch. Flashpoint now has something called home guards, kind of like if you're a league player. When you run out of the spawn door, you get a temporary speed boost to get to the point faster. It's removed when you take or deal any sort of damage. Applies in both default and forward spawns, so any of the spawns. That's pretty nice. And it does count towards the existing movement speed cap of 75%. So yes, in this game of Overwatch, if you guys don't know, there is a movement speed cap of 75%. So if you try to Lucio amp out of spawn, don't do it because it's not really worth it. It's probably better to min-max your Lucio amp after the natural speed boost goes away, or Juno ring. You don't want a Juno ring right out of spawn on Flashpoint for that reason. There's a balance changing Juno's quality of life under pulsar missiles, where the cooldown with the ability is canceled after no successful lock-on has been reduced from 5 to 2. True. They probably could have put this in the up part. Line of sight check. Extra range forgiveness. Small buffs here. My bad, I missed that part. Wait, so the bot cart can't go fast. Okay, Coco. Shh. How much is the speed boost? Lucio's amp speed boost is 60% already, so you don't want to stack too much of it. Same with Juno's ring. The push bot collision has been updated so players can't contest from certain high grounds. If you guys watch Overwatch League, there's that spot on top of Colosseo Bridge where they just stalled the robot forever, and it was the most annoying thing ever. Same with New Queen Street. There's a room where May used to just wall an ice block inside and just stall the bot. They finally fixed that, so like it can actually pass, and you don't have infinite stalling. Oh, okay. And there's extra speed boost. Thank you, Winter. He says it scales over time and distance. So the first and second is very fast because it's close to the cap, but it scales down over time as you get closer to the objective. That's a good point. So Blizzard Dev has confirmed that the speed boost decays and it depends on the distance from the point. There you go. It's a point they missed there. General map and mode updates. Updated recency system so that you're gonna get new maps more often early in the season. So you guys, if you queue up, anybody here been queuing? Is anybody getting a disgusting amount of Clash right now? Because like it's a recent map. Capture points, outlines can be seen. That's nice. Lighting scenarios are finally randomized, so it looks, you know, more interesting. I got Clash once, mini push. I played 3 times in 8 games Anubis. Clash first comp game, hey, there you go. Okay, and that's basically the gist of my thoughts on this patch. Curious to see how the meta shakes up, especially with the HP changes. I'll have more thoughts on like a tier list and my thoughts on the season after I put some hours into it. But that's my initial thoughts. Thanks for listening to me yap. See you guys on stream for the Twitch drops. You get the epic Sojourn skin if you watch for 15 hours. So come to the stream, leave it on, and thank you for the support.